Okay, hopefully people should be able to get on now. So I'm going to start in just 1 second. Okay, so again, I apologize for the problems with the video, and clearly I will have to get this figured out for the next one. Thank you everyone for coming. Can everybody hear me? If you can just give me a little thumbs up if you can hear. Okay. So basically what this is going to do, this meeting is our kickoff meeting, which is kind of a big picture meeting. And we're just going to go over big picture things that you're going to need to do for application. Just kind of thinking about large scale things. And then what we're going to do for our next meeting is we're going to get down to some of the nitty-gritty details of the application process itself. So, all right. See if we can get this working. Here we go. So this is what we're going to cover here. We're going to cover goals and motivation, choosing a year to apply, the letters, and the types of letters, briefly talking about test prep, application timing, and then what the pre-health advising office does. So, 1 second, let me see if this is, shoot. So, going forward from here. Okay. So, the goals and motivation of our office, basically what our office is designed to do, we actually do have a mission statement, and you can see it posted on our website. We're a resource for students and for applicants. And hold on 1 second, let me just type a little message in here. Sorry about this. So our office is designed really to be a advising resource for you guys. It's also designed to be a trusted resource for our outside folks. So for medical schools, for the places we're sending your applications off to. So that's something really important to kind of think about. When we're sending committee letters, which is one of the things that we do, we are writing about facts. We deal in facts here. So what we're going to be writing about is what you give us. So our office really works in partnership with you guys. So you definitely want to be working with us to give us the best information that we can send forward to give to the schools. So just to bear in mind that everything that we're going to be sending forward to the schools is going to be information that we've received from you. And so it's just kind of important to keep that in your head that, you know, if you want a good letter from us, you have to give us that good information. So, you know, making sure that we know what you're doing. And a lot of the stuff that we're going to be giving, or the requirements that we're going to have for you, that you guys are going to be like, oh, this is a lot of work. It's a lot of work for a reason, because we want to make sure that we're getting the best information out to the schools. And I know it can be kind of a pain, but at the same time, you've done a lot of work to get all of this stuff together, And so we want to make sure that you're putting together the best information for the medical school. So it's really key that you do this last step, which I know it's a lot of work, but it's a really important step in your application, the actual application itself. So it's really important just to know that we have a responsibility to the schools. If we're not doing a good job with them, if we're not sending them objective information and facts, they're not going to pay any attention to our letters. So the other thing we always remind applicants about, make sure that you've examined your motivations, that you've spent enough time exploring the career, and that you know, okay, this is definitely what I am interested in doing. This is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. Because medicine is obviously not a career that's for everyone. A lot of people think I'm really smart, I'm good at sciences, I like people, therefore I should be a doctor, I should be a dentist. And that's not necessarily the case. So just make sure that you have done all of that thought and that self-assessment. It's expensive and it's really life-consuming. Burnout rates in medicine are very high for people who love it. So, just make sure that you're going on the right route. Typically, from what we see, people are, but you just want to make sure about that. So that's my little spiel about goals and motivation here. Let me move on to our next slide here. Okay, choosing the best year to apply. You guys have hopefully seen this slide before. When looking at when is the best time to apply, this is our stats from last year. So who applied for 2014? The light blue group is the group that applied to go directly. So about 20% of our applicants applied to go directly. 32% of our applicants applied as seniors, so planning to take one gap year. 39% applied planning to take 2 gap years, 5% were planning for 3 gap years, and 4% were planning for 4 gap years. So this is the application numbers, and then this is the accepted numbers. And I just want to point out to everybody that applying in the year that is best for you is what's key. Acceptance rates, our highest acceptance rate, like the group that has the highest acceptance rate, is the group that's out for 2 years. So medical schools seem to be favoring folks who have a couple years of experience. However, it's not mandatory that you have a couple years of experience, right? We have 18% of our students who are going directly to medical school. So you just want to look and think about, okay, what's going to be best for you? And really do that thinking, okay, where do you fall within this group? And just making sure that you're making the correct decisions for you and not rushing. Your goal here is to wind up being a doctor, not necessarily wind up applying this year. So keep your eyes on the prize, basically. Okay. Sorry, everyone. Okay. All students who are applying now are going to be required to complete a self-assessment. And our self-assessment, I will pull up the Prezi in just a second here. So all students who are applying this year are going to be required to do a self-assessment through our office, and basically you'll download it from Google Documents. It's a fillable PDF, and you'll email that to us So the self-assessment is, I mean, you can see the number of times I put this on the page. It's a very important piece of our application. It's required by January 31st. So, and we'll go into the details in our next self-assessment of when specifically all of the time deadlines are. So we are requiring all students to fill out the self-assessment and email it to me. And basically the reason that we've decided to require everyone to send us a self-assessment is that what we found last year is, number one, the students who filled out a self-assessment did a better job with their application. And number two, students who we had a self-assessment for, we were able to write better committee letters for, because we had more information on what they've done. So this year we decided we should make it mandatory for people. So what we're going to do is we're going to have you guys email those self-assessments to us. We're going to keep them on file when we're putting together your committee letters. What we're going to do is we're going to have the self-assessments on file. We're also going to be looking at all of the other things that you've done, and we're going to be putting together the committee letter based on all of your experiences. So when we put together your committee letters, not only are we looking at your application, your committee letter interview, and everything we have on that app track, we'll also have all your letters of recommendation, and we have everything that you've put in your self-assessment. All right, moving on. So committee letters. Now the committee letters are a really big piece of what our office does, and that's one of the things that you'll definitely be using our office for. It's not the only service that our office provides, but it's definitely a big service that you use the pre-health office for. So the pre-health office does committee letters, and the way that our office does committee letters, we have certain letter requirements and we have certain letter deadlines. And the way that the letter requirements work, we have 3 required letters from faculty. So 3 BCMP letters, so science faculty. Then we also have requirements from external letters. Okay, so 2 science faculty, and then also 1 additional faculty. And then we also require a clinical letter from somebody who's seen you in a clinical setting within the last 18 months. So for those clinical letters, if you're applying to an MD program, it needs to be somebody who's an MD. If you're applying to a DO program, it needs to be a DO. If you're applying MD and DO, you need an MD and a DO. If you're applying to dental programs, you need somebody who is a dentist, obviously. So those experiences need to be within the last 18 months. They need to be somebody who's seen you in a clinical setting, not a family member, and preferably not your own pediatrician, just because they have a tendency to write in their letters, oh, I've known her since she was 2 and she was so adorable. So you do tend to miss some of, they tend to get a little too connected to you, and so you miss some of that information. I'm sorry, hold on 1 second here. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. So you're required to have all of the obviously mandatory letters. So 3 faculty letters, 2 of which have to be BCMP. The third is any subject. So it can be BCMP, it can be any other subject. For the science letters, it has to be somebody who taught you in a class, gave you a grade. It can't be a TA. We really recommend mixing it up a little bit. So have, a chemistry and a biology, for example. If you're a chemistry major, you really definitely want to have at least one chemistry letter. And maybe at least you want to have somebody at least one letter outside of your major. One of the things that we're doing is we're asking you guys to turn in your self-assessments before you ask for your letters. And the reason that we're doing that is because we are, I'm going to look at who you're asking for letters from, just to kind of make sure that you're asking for a good portfolio of letters. 95% of our students do a really good job of putting together that portfolio of letters, but every now and then people make mistakes that they don't even realize that they're making. And so it's just kind of a way for me to look at it and say, oh, okay, you know what, you're asking for 3 chemistry professors, or this person might not be appropriate because they're a TA. So please try and send in a self-assessment before you ask for letters. If you've already asked for letters, just shoot me a quick email about it. That's fine. You also are required for a committee letter to meet all our deadlines, and there is a self-assessment, or there's an applicant agreement, and we'll talk about the deadlines in the timeline meeting, which will be the next one, which I promise to have the technology worked out for. For letter packets, so our office, the pre-health office, does committee letters. We also do letter packets. Letter packets have the same letter requirements. The only difference is it's for people who have missed a deadline. So if you miss the letter requirement deadline, if you don't apply on time, we can still send a letter packet for you. We still require the same portfolio of letters, but if you don't want to meet all of the requirements for a committee letter, you can get a letter packet without doing all the requirements. With a committee letter, we do an interview with you, and either Dr. Begley or myself will also write part of your letter. And what we do in that part of the letter that we write is we include information that we think is important for your application. So things that we feel, okay, maybe this is something about this applicant that we feel is key for the application process, but it's not listed anywhere else on the application. So we're going to talk about that. Or we know kind of what the schools are looking for, so we're going to focus on things that the schools are looking for, which is why we think that a committee letter is a good thing to have. There's a third way to apply, and that's without a committee letter or a letter packet, but just having your evaluators upload the letters directly. So if you don't want to have 3 faculty letters, if you don't have a clinical letter, if you can't get the full letter portfolio, you can apply and have your letters uploaded directly. Typically, if you've been out of school for a while, like 4 years or something, a lot of people who have been out of school for longer will apply this way. It's sort of a non-traditional applicant's way of applying. And the reason that people will frequently apply in that way is that they've been out of school for longer, so their school is a smaller part of who they are as an applicant, and so they want to emphasize what they've done since school a lot more. If you apply without a committee letter, you may be asked, why did you apply without a committee letter? So if you graduated 4 years ago, you're probably not going to be asked, or if you are asked, you can just say, well, I felt that this was a better representation of who I am. But you should just be aware that if you apply without a committee letter, especially if you're a recent graduate, it can hurt your application. You'll certainly at least be asked why you applied without it. Okay. Test prep. We'd just like to highlight the fact that there are a lot of test prep companies out there. For a lot of people, it's a really good idea, and they really decide they want to take a test prep Kaplan class or Princeton class. Other people do just fine without taking one. Those classes are really good for keeping people on track with their studies, making sure that you're on time, that you're keeping the appropriate pace, that you're doing the appropriate study schedule. The data shows that about half of the applicants for MD programs take a test prep class and about half don't. And it seems like people have equal success. What I saw from DO programs, it was a little higher percentage who take a test prep class, about 75%. Bottom line, you really need to think about your learning style and your test prep style. And if you feel like you need to take a test prep class, by all means do so. People often ask me what's the best type of class to take. There's no one best class. Take what you feel comfortable with and what you feel is going to help you, so be an informed consumer. With the new MCAT exam for MD and DO and any podiatry applicants, there are going to be people out there like Kaplan who may be trying to instill some level of fear. I would say, you know, buy into that with a level of caution. A test prep class is a good purchase if you feel it's going to help you keep on track with the studying. It's not necessary. Application timing, you guys have hopefully seen, my beautiful diagram that shows that you should be applying in June. So our applicants who apply in June tend to do best. So this is June applications. July is not as strong. And then by August and September, folks who apply later in the application cycle don't do as well.
Into the you originally calculated in your homework? Or did you not do that? I don't even remember.
So folks who apply in July
and
June have the best success.
Infinitely long, right?
Because people who apply in June tend to be the people who are really on top of things. So it's partly because you've been really starting now and starting with your
I might be because the L is infinite.
And the other part of it is that it's kind of perceptions of the school. So the schools have a tendency to think, okay, the people who apply early are going to be the best ones, are the best applicants. We need to go for these folks. So it's partly, oh, is somebody talking? Hold on one second. It looks like everybody, all these panels are, hold on one second. I'm just turning the volume down. Apparently somebody was saying they were having a hard time hearing. Okay, can you guys hear me now? Are you guys okay now? You guys can type. Yes, okay. All right, sorry about that. I keep trying to find a better technology than Google Hangout. And sadly, this is the best I've found, but it's not as good as it should be. It's Google. It should be better than this. But anyway, so going forward, yeah. I'm going to look and see if I can find something that works better. That's going to be my next mission. So yeah, with application timing, part of the timing issue is just that, you know, when the schools get your applications, if you apply in the beginning of June, the verification process takes a little while, and the application services don't actually release your applications to the schools until typically the end of June. This next year, because of the new MCAT for MD programs, I know they're not going to be releasing the applications until the beginning or middle of July. So they're going to be changing the cycle of when the schools actually receive the applications. But the schools get the applications in, end of June, beginning of July. They start looking through those applications and they start sending out interview invitations in July. And then they start interviewing in August and September. So if your application isn't even in until August, there's just a smaller number of seats left for interviews. So you have to be that much better in order to qualify for one of those seats, in order for them to give you one of those seats. And especially for DO programs, we already have students who have been accepted into osteopathic school already. So we have some students who have accepts. And for MD programs, they don't send out their acceptances until October. They have some traffic rules, they call them. But there are schools who have already decided on some acceptances at this point. So anybody who at this point is applying now is applying for a smaller pool of seats. So it's just really important that you get your application in so you're applying when the pool of seats is larger, so they can put you in that giant pool when you're first looking at applying. All right, so what services do we offer? So we offer, obviously you guys know, individual advising. We have group advising, and I'm going to have some what are called foundation meetings, and those are going to be in November and December, and you'll have the chance to sign up for those online through your MyNEU. For those of you who are alumni and no longer have access, you'll just email me to sign up for it. So with the foundation meetings, they'll be on campus. I'll have a few evening ones, and then we'll have some virtual ones. They will probably not be through Google Hangout, but they might. So for those meetings, there'll be a little bit more strategy and marketing to kind of think about how you're putting together the application itself. Because everything that you do on your application, you want to think about it in a strategic way, and everything that goes on there, you want to put on there for a reason. And you really want to think about what is going on in your application in terms of what the schools are looking for. We have a series of workshops. We'll have a personal statement workshop, and we also do personal statement feedback. So I definitely recommend getting feedback from, all your people, from your friends, your family. Career Services does personal statement feedback. Also, the English Writing Center is really good with feedback, not necessarily on content, but on the writing itself. So if writing is not your thing, the English Writing Center is great with helping you with how do you say what you want to say. So I would definitely recommend using them as a strategy. And then we also work with you in application strategy, and we'll have interview prep and alumni connections for interviewing. So when people get interviews, we actually connect you with Northeastern alumni who are at those schools that you're interviewing at, so that you can talk to them and ask them, what's going on at your school right now? What are your schools emphasizing? What things are important right now at your programs? So that when you're interviewing there, you can make sure to kind of integrate those into what you're talking about. And we're also going to have a panel of accepted students, which hopefully you guys can come to campus for, where this will be in the spring semester, so it may work better for you, where we'll have some students who have been accepted into medical school in this current application cycle come and talk about their experiences. And just last, these are our upcoming workshops. I will be having a Google Hangout or other type virtual meeting on the Wednesday at noon following it. The accepted students panel, I don't know if I'll have a virtual session for, just because the folks who do come to that, the accepted students are really busy people. And so it's a lot to get them to come in for, but all of the other ones I do. So I will be sending out information about the foundation meetings and registration for those. And our next meeting is going to be the timeline one, which will be really nuts and bolts. When are things due? What do you have to get done by when in order to qualify for a committee letter? We'll have one that's just about the MCAT for folks who are applying for MD, DO, podiatry, personal statement, and I really want to do a workshop, so we'll do some writing on that one. And then we're not talking about letters of evaluation until January, and that's fine for a time to ask for letters. They're not due until March, and then the accepted students panel will be in March. So I don't know if anybody has any questions they want to ask about any of this stuff. You can type, you can unmute. Anyone? Questions about any other things coming up? No questions? Okay, so I'm back here. If you do have questions, definitely feel free to send me an email. I will look into another technology. I'm really sorry about the start of this one being a little rocky, but I appreciate everybody coming, and I look forward to working with you over the next year as we move forward with your application. So if you do have questions, definitely feel free to let me know, and we'll go from here. So thanks everyone for coming, and I'll be seeing you over the next year. All right. Bye-bye.